Hey friends, let's go over how to make the perfect Christmas sugar cookie. We've got the dough prepped. It's a combination of butter, sugar, vanilla bean paste, egg, flour, baking powder, and salt. And we're gonna ball that up on a floured surface and then roll it out with a rolling pin. Quick tip, if you're like me and you see the dough start to pull up on the rolling pin, make sure you wipe that rolling pin off and then redust your cookie dough with some more flour. This is a recipe that requires chill time, which means it's a bit softer. That makes for a really nice texture when you're eating the cookies, but it means that you have to make sure it's nicely floured when you're rolling it out, or else it'll stick to the counter and stick to your rolling pin. When we're rolling it out, we're looking to get just about a centimeter thick. That's a lot thicker than a bunch of the other recipes out there. So stop rolling before you think you need to and double check how thick you've gotten. This extra thickness will make sure the cookies are nice and chewy when they bake up without becoming crispy or crumbly. Of course, you can use whatever cookie cutters you want. I'm going to demo here how to decorate these snowflake cookies. So if you have a snowflake cutter, use that one. A round cutter would also work well because it's so versatile and you can do so many different designs with it. I'm just going to show the first roll out here. But of course, after you've cut out your first batch, you can gather all the scrap dough into a ball and repeat the process. If your surface was floured properly, you should be able to just pull those cookies up, put them on a cookie sheet, and then we're going to chill them in the fridge for at least an hour. You can also chill them overnight. Just make sure they're wrapped or covered or in a sealed container. Then we bake 350 degrees for about 12 minutes until the edges just slightly start to turn golden. For decor, I'm using my favorite royal icing mix. And I love this snowflake design because you don't really need any colors. Just two textures of white royal icing. So I have a thicker consistency in a piping bag and I use that to outline the whole cookie. And then I use a bit of a thinner consistency and I just dab it into the middle of the cookie and then spread it out using a toothpick rather than dirtying a whole nother piping bag. If you're doing a lot of cookies, I think it's worth it to get another piping bag out. But just for a single batch, I find this way easier. So this is my flood consistency and it's very easy to spread all the way to the edge of the cookie. You can also just take the cookie and dunk it in that flood consistency frosting if you want just a smooth covering of the whole cookie. The only thing is with that, it might run off the edges a little bit, which is not the end of the world. But if you want clean, defined lines at the edge of the cookie, I would recommend piping this outline first. It acts as a little bit of a dam and just holds that looser frosting within the outline of the cookie. Once you have your base layer on, you want to let that fully dry before we go on to the next step. So I let mine sit out at room temperature for a couple hours while I go do something else. Then we grab that piping bag with the same thicker consistency icing, and I'm just going tip to tip all the way across the cookie. A tip for this is to start your line and then don't let your hand touch the cookie until you reach the other side, because gravity will allow it to fall in a straight line. Versus if it's more like a pen and you keep your hand on the cookie all the way across, it can shake and it won't be as straight. Then I'm going back in and I'm doing another set of lines, only halfway across this time and just slightly staggered from the first set. Once you have those lines down, it's time to add the final details. So I like to just make a bunch of little V shapes. Remember, every snowflake is different, so you don't have to copy this exactly. You can do whatever style you want. And it's okay if it's not consistent across all of your cookies. I personally like to do 2 little V's on the short lines, and then I'll go and do 1 big V on the longer lines. And with these ones, I hold the pressure a bit longer when I'm starting and ending the V, so it looks like they have dots at the end of them almost. Just to add a little bit more detail and interest to the cookies. Again, I'm not super worried about these being perfectly symmetrical or exactly all the same length, because who's looking at it that closely? But also, it's a snowflake. It's allowed to be imperfect. And also, for my final trick, I take some white sanding sugar and sprinkle it over the cookie. At this point, the base layer has dried, so the only thing that's wet is our design on top. So that's the only thing that will hang on to that sparkling sanding sugar. And you get this lovely glittering effect that looks like real snow. But it also helps to hide any of your imperfections in your piping. It's a win-win, and it adds a really nice texture, I find, to the bite of the cookie. Last thing I'll do is just pick up the cookie and tap off any of the excess sanding sugar, and that's it. A delicious, thick, chewy cookie that doesn't spread in the oven with a simple but beautiful royal icing design. Look at the way she shimmers in that light. I love them so much, and I hope you do too. Thanks for watching.